This will hurt, but it's exactly what you need to hear. What you're feeling isn't love. It's fear dressed in disguise. You've been deceived for far too long. They've made you believe that clinging, needing, obsessing was love. But let's tell the truth. What you're really experiencing is fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of not being enough. Fear of not being seen, not being chosen. Fear of being invisible without someone there to validate your worth. So tell me, if that person disappeared tomorrow, would you still feel whole? Or would you collapse like a fragile structure, barely held together by their presence? That knot in your stomach, the trembling in your hands when they don't respond, the sleepless nights, checking their last online status again and again. That isn't love. It's anxiety. It's emotional dependency wrapped in longing. It's fear pretending to be connection. And worst of all, you've confused it with love because no one ever taught you how to love without needing. Carl Jung said it powerfully. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But let's be honest. You're not transforming. You're dissolving. You're shrinking to fit into someone else's expectations, terrified they might leave. If you stay true to yourself, you're betraying your own soul to feel chosen. And underneath it all, there's a terrifying belief. Without them, you are nothing. Here's the uncomfortable truth. What you feel. It's not love. It's addiction. You're hooked on the way they make you feel. You're dependent, like a drug, because their presence gives you something you haven't yet learned to give yourself. They numb a void you're too scared to face. But do you know what attachment really is? It's the illusion that your survival depends on someone else. It's that desperate inner whisper, without them, I'll fall apart. But the truth is, you won't. You'll face it. You'll rebuild. You'll rise. Because absence, when faced with courage, becomes your greatest teacher. Attachment is fear. Love is freedom. Attachment binds. Love liberates. Until you truly grasp that difference, you'll keep mistaking cages for comfort. You'll think love means possession, that to love is to control, to hold tight, to never let go. But authentic love doesn't need chains. It doesn't beg for forever. It doesn't panic in uncertainty. Carl Jung understood this. He saw that we project our emptiness onto others. We reach outside to patch the holes inside. That's why attachment is so rampant. We walk around wounded, hoping someone else's presence can heal what's missing within. And in doing so, we become emotional vampires, feeding off others' energy, clinging to their attention, hoping it can soothe our inner ache. But there comes a moment, a breaking point, a quiet rock bottom, when you finally see the truth. This isn't love saving you. It's love sinking you. And that, my friend, is where detachment begins. Not as a cold, heartless decision, but as a fierce, radical act of self-love. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you stop chaining your love. You stop fearing the loss. You stop thinking love must last forever to be real. Because true love, it doesn't need to possess. It doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't demand you stay small to feel safe. Real love wants you to rise, to grow, to expand into the fullest version of yourself. Detachment is a revolution. It's the moment you look fear in the eyes and say, "You don't control me anymore." Detachment isn't about becoming cold. It's about standing in the void and not trembling. It's realizing you don't need anyone else to feel whole because you already are, even if you can't see it yet, even if it's still hard to believe. And yes, Letting go will hurt. It always does. It feels like tearing away a part of your soul because for so long you believed the other person was essential to your survival. You forgot how to walk alone, but I promise you, it's possible. And when you do it, when you truly set yourself free, everything changes. Not because the world changes, but because your gaze does. You stop seeing from lack. You start seeing from fullness. To detach doesn't mean to close your heart. It means to open it wide, expansive, and free of conditions. It's the ability to say, I love you, but I don't need you to be happy. And as paradoxical as that sounds, it's the highest act of love you can give. Because in that space, love is no longer pressure. It's not manipulation. It's not a silent plea to be saved. It's real. It's whole. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the sacred path of becoming who you truly are. It's the process of integrating, of uniting with yourself. From that place, grounded, rooted, whole, you can connect with others without losing yourself. You can share, not out of need, but out of overflow. You can love, not from emptiness, but from abundance. But yes, it takes courage, because attachment is strangely comfortable, even when it hurts. It's familiar. Detachment, on the other hand, throws you into an abyss. It forces you to meet your shadows, to sit with your pain, to face yourself. And many won't go there. They'd rather stay in the prison they know than step into the unknown of freedom. But what lies beyond that abyss? Peace. A peace that doesn't sway with someone's presence. A love that doesn't vanish with someone's absence. A strength born from within that radiates outward. And in that moment, you understand. Letting go isn't loss. It's recovery. You recover yourself. You reclaim your power. You reconnect with your essence. Because real love, true love, it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't demand that you shrink. It doesn't make you feel anxious, small, or suffocated. If it robs you of peace, if it makes you betray yourself, it's not love. It's attachment. And no matter how romantic it looks on the outside, that kind of bond is a prism, a beautiful trap. Want to truly love? Then learn to be alone. Learn to embrace your solitude. Get to know your darkness. Stand strong when everything else falls. Stop needing someone else's reflection to recognize your worth. Only then will you be able to look someone in the eyes and say, I choose you, but I don't need you. And yes, that's brutal, because most people don't love. They cling. They attach themselves to others to avoid facing the emptiness inside, to escape the ache of their own lack of self-love, and so they stay tied, dependent, confused, mistaking suffering for passion, intensity for truth, possession for connection. But there's another way. It's harder, yes, but it's real. The path of conscious detachment, the path of emotional freedom, the path that leads you to love, not from need, but from wholeness. So look inward. Ask yourself, why does letting go hurt so deeply? What part of me do I think dies if they leave? What wound am I asking them to fill? That, right there, is the root of your attachment. Pull it out, not with rage, but with compassion, with love, with patience. Because this isn't about blaming the other. It's about loving yourself enough to stop depending on anyone to feel real. And though it stings at first, that's the purest love there is. Remember this. Love is not possession. It's presence. Voluntary, open. A dance, not a chain. If you need to control it, to hold it tight, to fear its loss, it's not love. It's fear. And fear doesn't build. It destroys. So let go. Let go with dignity. Let go with love. Let go. knowing that letting go isn't losing. It's choosing yourself. And the moment you choose yourself, fully, fiercely, and without apology, everything begins to shift. You stop searching outward for what was always inside you. You stop begging for scraps of affection. You stop holding on to someone who can't hold you back. You stop disappearing inside someone else's life. Because now you have you. And that is the most powerful thing you can ever reclaim. Detachment isn't cold. It's not indifference. It's emotional maturity. It's awareness. It's knowing, deeply knowing, that everything which enters your life can also leave. And still, you'll be okay. It's understanding that real security isn't found in someone else's arms. It's rooted in your own soul. And from that place, you can love without fear. You can open up without conditions. You can give without dissolving. Because you're no longer reaching out to be completed. You're offering from your fullness. Yes, it's a brutal message. Yes, it stings. But it's necessary. Because as long as you mistake need for love, you'll remain trapped in cycles that consume you. You'll keep suffering. You'll keep replaying the same emotional script. Scripts that destroy your spirit piece by piece. It's time to wake up. To look attachment in the eyes and say, I no longer need you. It's time to walk toward real love, a love that doesn't bind you, that doesn't demand your sacrifice, that doesn't consume you to keep itself alive, a love that sets you free, that supports, that builds. And that kind of love, it begins with you, in you. Because when you're whole on your own, everything else naturally aligns. And only then can you truly love, not out of fear, but from freedom. Now consider this. What if emotional attachment doesn't just distort how you love, but who you are? Here comes an uncomfortable truth. When you attach to someone, you slowly begin to shrink. You adjust, mold, and shape yourself to meet their expectations. You silence parts of yourself, not because they asked you to, but because you're scared they'll leave if you don't. You edit yourself, version by version, until you're no longer you. And the saddest part, most of the time the other person never asked you to do it. You did it out of fear. This is where we touch on something deeply Jungian, the shadow. That hidden part of yourself you repress, deny, and conceal. Yet it never disappears. When attachment dominates, you stop showing your real self. Instead, you present a version, a character, that you think the other person can accept. You show them what's polished and hide what's raw. But here's the cost. You may stay connected, but you start falling apart inside. Emotional dependency doesn't just tie you to someone else. It severs you from yourself. You forget your center. You blur your boundaries. You stop listening to your intuition. Suddenly, your emotional world is governed by someone else. If they're happy, you're fine. If they withdraw, you unravel. You become a mirror, not a person, an echo of their moods, their choices, their chaos. And what happens when you live like that? You empty yourself. You begin to experience constant anxiety, cloaked in the illusion of love. Every word, every pause, every silence from them becomes a test, a threat. Your emotional stability no longer belongs to you. It's in someone else's hands. And that's dangerous, because no one, absolutely no one, is responsible for managing your inner world. This is where relational neurosis begins, a rarely discussed yet deeply real phenomenon. It's when your relationships turn into loops of pain, where suffering becomes routine, predictable, even expected. And you don't even see it happening because the pattern lives in your subconscious. As Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So you keep choosing the same relationships, with different faces but identical patterns, where love is driven by fear, where you sacrifice to feel chosen, where need, not truth, is at the core. And then something even darker emerges. Idealization, that dangerous distortion where you place the other person on a pedestal. You're not in love with the real person. You're in love with the idea you projected onto them. And the higher you place them on that pedestal, the smaller you become in your own story. That's where it all begins to fall apart, because love cannot exist without equality. And when you shrink yourself to keep someone close, the relationship stops being love. It becomes emotional servitude. So what's the way out? You go inward, straight into the uncomfortable, into the corners of your solitude you've spent years avoiding. Because if you can't sit with yourself, you'll keep searching for someone else to do it for you. And worse, you'll start demanding it, not because you're cruel, but because you're hurting, because you've mistaken love for a bandage, when what you actually need is emotional surgery. Carl Jung spoke of the integration of the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine energies that reside in all of us. When these are disconnected, we go out into the world searching for what we think we lack, and that craving becomes attachment. But when you do the inner work, when you meet yourself as whole, not in theory, but in truth, something miraculous happens. You begin to connect not from desperation, but from choice, not from fear, but from fullness, not from lack, but from clarity. And love, it changes form. It stops feeling like urgency. It becomes expansion. You no longer need someone to save you. You simply want someone to walk beside you. You don't demand, you invite. You don't hold tight, you share freely. Because you're no longer loving from hunger, you're loving from abundance. But to reach that place, you must cross a desert, the desert of detachment. It's lonely, it's raw, it's full of mirrors, and in that vast silence, there's no one left to blame, only you. And in that honesty, you finally say the words, "This isn't love. This is fear of being alone." It stings. But that phrase is the beginning of your freedom, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to settling for half-hearted connections. You can't keep confusing intensity with intimacy. You can't continue sacrificing your peace for people who don't truly see you. You've awakened. And yes, that awakening may cost you people, but it will return you to yourself. That's when the process becomes sacred, because you understand now. Detachment isn't coldness. It's healing. It isn't indifference. It's self-respect. It's not resignation. It's choice. It's standing in your truth and saying, "I love you, but not at the cost of myself." It's having the maturity to release what no longer adds to you, even if it hurts. It's refusing to negotiate your worth for a moment of attention. And when you do this, something incredible shifts. Your emotional vibration rises, and you start attracting different people, people who don't come to complete you, but to walk with you, people who don't need you, they choose you, people who don't drain you, they lift you, because you're no longer sending out a signal of lack, you're radiating integrity. And now comes the hardest and most beautiful part. Many will walk away. Not everyone knows how to love someone who doesn't need them. Some people only feel valuable when they're someone else's oxygen, and when they see you breathing on your own. they feel useless. But that's not your burden to carry. Your only responsibility is you. This is the real path of transformation when you stop begging for love and start becoming it. When you no longer need someone's arms to feel safe because you've learned to hold yourself. When silence stops feeling like punishment and starts becoming a temple. When you realize your worth was never in someone else's gaze, but in how you see yourself when no one is watching. And yes, there will be relapses, because you're human, because the fear of loneliness doesn't vanish overnight. But every single time you choose your peace over a connection that breaks you, you are rewriting your story. This is your power. This is love. This is freedom. Do you truly want to love? Then stop asking to be completed. Start completing yourself. And from that fullness, share. Because authentic love doesn't need chains, only wings. Wings to fly together or even apart, but always in peace. Real love doesn't bind, it accompanies. And that, more than anything, is what matters. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you knows the truth. There's a voice, small, maybe silent for years, that is finally screaming from deep within. Enough. This isn't love. This is breaking me. And that voice, no matter how many excuses you make, no matter how many empty promises you swallow, no matter how many times you whisper, they'll change, or it's not that bad, that voice will not be silenced anymore. Now we go deeper, to the origin of the wound, because emotional attachment doesn't start in this relationship. It isn't about the other person. It started long before, in childhood, in those early moments when someone, maybe even with love, taught you that being loved meant doing something in return. Be good, be quiet, be helpful, be perfect, be invisible. Don't cry, don't get angry, don't be you. That was the moment you learned that love had conditions, that to be loved, you had to earn it. And that's where it began. The adult who suffers for love today is the child who once felt they were never enough. That is the true wound. It's not the other who's breaking you. It's you reliving an old script. A script you learned before you even knew how to name your emotions. Carl Jung called this the wounded inner child. And this is not some poetic metaphor. It's a psychological reality. That child still lives inside you. And if you don't listen to them, they will take control. They will lead you into relationships from pain, not awareness. They will make you cling, beg, tolerate the intolerable, just to avoid the feeling of being abandoned again. But that's not the end, because if you don't heal that wound, you'll fall into another trap, falling in love with potential, not reality. You'll fall in love not with who someone is, but who they might be, if they grow, if they change, if they finally understand. You cling to that imagined future as if it's salvation when they stop doing this, when they finally become that. And in doing so, you become a hostage to a dream that never arrives. You live in a relationship with someone who only exists in your head. Meanwhile, you delay your truth. You pause your growth. You sacrifice your dignity. You tell yourself, just a little more. But that little becomes years, and one day you open your eyes and realize the most precious thing you had, your time, was spent waiting for a love that only existed in your hope. That is the cruelest part of attachment. It steals your present in the name of a future that never comes. But there's more. Attachment has another face, one harder to see. Addiction to drama. Yes, you read that right. Some people feel empty and calm. They've ridden the emotional roller coaster for so long, they've mistaken chaos for love. If there's no jealousy, no fights, no emotional explosions, it doesn't feel real. Intensity becomes their love language. They crave the highs and lows, the teary reconciliations, the storm after the silence. But emotional chaos is adrenaline, and like all adrenaline, it's addictive. But it does not build, it erodes. And here's the brutal truth. Have you noticed how you sometimes push away the people who truly love you? Those who offer peace, not drama. Those who don't make you shatter yourself just to feel seen. Why? Because your emotional system is conditioned for pain. Because you've learned to associate love with struggle. Because you don't know how to receive without paying for it with suffering. Because you don't know how to just be when there's no battle to fight. And that too. That, my friend, is attachment. Not to the person, but to the pain, to the pattern, to what's familiar, even when it hurts. Some things destroy you, not because they're powerful, but because they feel familiar. So how do you break the cycle? First, become aware. Stop justifying what hurts. Stop romanticizing what makes you small. No, jealousy is not love. No, suffering does not make love more meaningful. No, love should never cost you your mental health. Second, stop looking outward for salvation. Stop waiting for them to change, to finally value you, to realize what they had. Start looking at yourself, because the love you beg for from others is the love you've refused to give yourself. Now enters a forgotten but essential truth: self-affirmation. The ability to say, "This is who I am. This is what I feel. This is what I need. This is what I will not tolerate." And to stand in that truth, even if it means losing someone, because losing someone who cannot love you as you are is not a tragedy. It's a blessing. But you won't see that until you've learned to stand alone, until your worth no longer depends on the echo of others, but on the fire you carry within. Now, let's go even deeper. What if love is not the destination, but the consequence? What if the real search isn't for another person, but for inner integration? Because when you're aligned with yourself, nothing from the outside can shatter you. Love doesn't arrive to complete you. It comes to amplify you. And if it leaves, yes, it may shake you, but it won't break you, because you were already whole. Carl Jung spoke of the self, the core of your being, a still center untouched by external winds. When you live from that place, you no longer chase approval. You no longer need someone to carry your emotional weight. You become your own anchor, and from there, every relationship you enter is free. Freer, cleaner, truer, because it no longer rises from need, but from the meeting of two complete beings. Yes, that sounds beautiful, but the path, it's hard. You'll cry. You'll want to go back. You'll miss even the things that once hurt you, because your mind is conditioned to crave what's familiar, even when it breaks you. But every time you choose peace over drama, every time you hold yourself in the middle of the emptiness, you're breaking the cycle. You're rewriting your emotional history. You're no longer bleeding from the wound. You're learning to write from the scar. And here's the most heartbreaking truth. Not everyone you love will be ready to love you back. You may have to look someone in the eyes and admit it's not your fault. It's not theirs. It simply isn't. It doesn't fit. It doesn't flow. And letting go is not failure. It's maturity. It's knowing that love doesn't mean holding on at all costs. Sometimes love means knowing when to let go. not because you've stopped loving them, but because you've finally started loving yourself. That is real detachment, not indifference, not coldness, not resignation, but love in its purest form. Love that allows itself to leave when staying would mean abandoning yourself. And when you reach that place, something inside you breaks open, but not in pain, in release, because you finally understand your greatest love story was never about another person. It was always about you, your process, your healing, your becoming. And from that place, from that unshakable center, everything else begins to shift. And now, as we reach the end of this journey together, let this not be a closing, but an opening of your eyes, an opening of your truth, an opening to the story that only you can write, not from fear, not from longing, but from love, from you, to you. Let me tell you something most people are too afraid to say out loud. The love of your life is not a person. It never was. The love of your life is your path, your growth, your awakening. The love of your life is you. When you finally stop betraying yourself, what you've been calling loss, that's often just life tearing away what no longer fits, what limits your rise, what keeps you from becoming everything you're meant to be. And yes, of course it hurts. Detachment stings. It aches to sit with yourself. It's raw to face the silence, to look around and see that the person who once consumed your thoughts and body is gone. But what if that pain was necessary? What if it was the fever before the healing? Because yes, detachment burns. But what comes after? Clarity, a clean vision, a quiet soul, a heart that finally breathes without chains. Here's something few people understand. Being alone is not the same as feeling empty. Alone is a physical state. Empty is a wound. And when you heal that wound, solitude stops feeling like a punishment. It becomes a temple, a sanctuary, a sacred space where you can finally hear yourself without the world's noise. And then something sacred happens. You stop chasing. You stop begging for love because you finally understand. No one is worth more than your peace. No one is worth losing yourself for. You didn't come here to cling. You came to create, to unfold, to rise. If someone wants to walk with you, beautiful. But if not, you keep going. Not out of pride, but from clarity. So remember this. Love doesn't tie you down. Love lets go. True love doesn't leave you gasping for air one moment and lifeless the next. True love doesn't need to scream to be felt. It doesn't demand absurd sacrifices. It doesn't force you to choose between yourself and someone else. True love does not hurt. What hurts is attachment, the fantasy, the illusion, the resistance. And now that you see it, what will you do? Will you keep living in dependency, or will you dare to cross the bridge that leads back to you? Because that's where the path truly begins, the moment you stop begging for love and start cultivating it within you. And if you've come this far, if even a single sentence pierced your chest like an invisible blade, I have a challenge for you. Go to the comments and write this. I choose my peace over fear. Not for me, for you. So when you stumble, because you will, you'll remember this moment, this choice. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because this channel isn't here to comfort your ego. It's here to shatter it and help you rebuild from truth. You didn't come here to scroll. You came here to wake up. So if you're ready for more uncomfortable truths, for fierce self-awareness, for the kind of psychology that makes you see your life through a sharper lens, stay. And now, I don't leave you with a goodbye. I leave you with a warning. From this moment on, you will never love the same. You will never relate the same. Because now, you know. And once you see the truth, there is no going back. See you in the next video. Or rather, I'll meet you where it matters most, inside you.